with the Spiritual Underground podcast. Got a amazing guest for you today. As we do this thing called recovery, most people get done and they get this monkey off their back and they're looking for what's next. A lot of them want to turn around and go through the steps again, but there is so much out there to do to keep on raising your vibration, and that's what my guest Craig is here to help us learn a little about what he does today. Craig Goldberg's a relaxation expert and technologist on a quest to help humanity achieve a deeper sense of inner calmness through the use of sound and vibration therapy or technology. He's a Vibro-Acoustic Therapy Practitioner, and his work is backed by 40 years of research showing the many benefits that this type of therapy. Based on the technical acoustics and vibrational technology, he is also a patented inventor, constantly exploring new ways to use sound and vibration to help people reduce stress, anxiety, heal, and transform their lives for the better. Craig is passionate about his work and truly believes in its ability to provide a path forward to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. So right off the bat, why do we need this today?
I think we need to relax.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, it's just that simple. I introduced myself as a relaxation expert, and most people just kind of melt in my arms like, oh, I need that. That sounds amazing. Here in the United States, we wear busyness as a badge. And this beautiful and incredible culture and society that we have co-created together, you're welcome and thank you, is one that is really predicated and built on getting shit done. I don't know if I can say that, but
you sure can.
Cool.
No bars are held here.
Amazing. Right? Like I'm a New Yorker, so sometimes the expletives fly, especially when they're
well, I'm from recovery and they fly frequently.
Cool. So it's this get shit done environment that we're in with a to-do list that never ends. And really any walk of life, whether you want to drive a vehicle, well, you got to spend time going to the DMV. Nobody likes going to the DMV. Although I got to say the last couple times I went, it was a really smooth process here in Vegas. So shout out to them for expediting their process. Life in general is complicated. Whether you're opening my mail stresses me out. Right? Like I can't even tell you how many times I walk out to my mailbox and it's all bullshit. I waste more time opening and forget about being in an election cycle and all the mail that you get associated with that. Current resident stuff that's not addressed to me, bills bills are stressful by themselves, but that's the easy part. That's why I go to the mailbox. Really, that's just a huge time suck on my daily life. And this is just one example. They exist everywhere. Right? To live life and be an upstanding citizen takes time and energy, and you got to cut through it. And there's just stuff on that list that you just need to get done. And we all need to get it done. I said this to my wife not too long ago. Life is hard. I wish it could be put another way. The reality is the layers of complexity and complication that we put into this life today, 2023, August, now September, there's stress and anxiety that's built into what we do because of the things we naturally need to get done. And you layer on top of that the negative self-talk, the mental instability that we all have. I'm doing this 6.5 years and I'm living life for 44. And I can tell you that life is hard. It's just that simple. Now, I want to walk around and did he? Smart guy.
Well, his first noble truth is life is suffering, and that's just a little, there's some interpretation to what that word really meant, but I think it meant the same thing as what you're saying.
I agree with him. I mean, we're here to people call these meat suits, right? You want to get into the conscious aspect of it. We are spirits having a human experience. I call these suffer suits. Okay. Because there is suffering that comes along with this life, and we can break that down as deep as you want to go. I'm down. I got a headlamp and a flashlight, and I'm ready to dive down that rabbit hole. The reality is how much you suffer is a choice. And especially in the recovery world, what you do to cover up that suffering is often why you're in need of recovery in the first place, right? Why those addictions start to get worse. And you can be in recovery from anything,
Yeah.
sex,
Yeah.
skin contact. Addiction
You're
comes in many
talking my
different
language.
forms. Yeah. Addiction comes in many different forms. And we do quite a bit of work in this space. So I'm pretty well versed. And we get to decide how much we suffer. And that's a difficult thing when you're in the thick of suffering. But it ultimately is a choice as to how you're going to look at that situation and what you're going to do to get out of it. And then what you're going to do day to day to cope with the fact that life is hard. And I wish I could tell you it's all rainbows and unicorns and, flower pastures. And the
It's
reality
just not.
is it's just not. Last night I had a pretty mystical experience, and I haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. So if it's okay, I'll
All right.
open up a
Yeah.
little bit. All right.
Sure.
So I took my sound lounge and practitioner, two of the pieces of hardware that I have, and I just moved into a new house. We just set up our sanctuary and our healing room, place where we go to do the work that we need to do to relax. Right. Look, you can buy my technology and you can put it in any room, anywhere, and it will work fantastically. But we created a very intentional space for us to go deep into relaxation and deep into our own psyche. And I danced with God last night.
Mm,
It's the only way that I can put it.
I
Right.
get it.
Whatever that means to you, it's not a religious thing. I'm just telling you, I gave him, her, whatever, that source energy, a big old hug last night for a good 3 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
I did that using my technology. And the space that I just curated and created allowed my body, mind, and spirit to relax to a point where I looked at my wife and my roommate that was in the room with us. We did this little group drop in, and I just looked at him like, why can't it all be like this?
Yeah.
Why can't every day be like this? And I went to bed. I had a great night's sleep, 4 hours. I have a 3-year-old. She kept me up early this morning, and then life hits. It's Labor Day, and I got a full day of appointments and meetings, and I
Yeah.
got work to do, and I got a to-do list. My RV just came back from Burning Man on a rental. I got to deal with that, right? Life just happens. My daughter's here with a play date. My wife was getting the house set up. She was stressed on getting, the house set up so that it looks just right when it doesn't
Hmm.
really matter. Our house is
Yeah.
beautiful. It's going to be appreciated anyway, right? Like, we put these pressures on ourselves, and that's just the simple trials and tribulations of life. And yet last night I was blissed out for 3 hours, laying on my sound lounge, listening to an hour and a half sound healing called
Yeah.
Walking Each Other Home. And I was dancing with God. And then this morning I woke up and bam, I was 15 minutes late to meet you. And I was sitting here a half hour early being like, I got this conversation with Dan that I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to. And then I get a text from you at 2:12, like, hey, are we meeting or
Yeah.
what? And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Uh-oh. I'm glad to tell you I had your phone number, because sometimes I
I'm
have guests and I'm standing here with no way to get a hold of them.
glad you do too.
Yeah,
And
I thought,
again,
well, I'm pulling the
sincere
trigger on it.
gratitude for your
Yeah. Well, that's
patience. Yeah.
recharging the battery, that suffering and that daily grind and all the bullshit that comes flying at us from multiple directions. I had to have some time to where I set aside time for myself and recharge that battery. And some
Yeah.
people can just sit and meditate. I found tools help me do that,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, because I didn't have, I couldn't sit still for 2 minutes and not, and have
Yeah.
any relief.
Look, we're at the forefront of that. I call it tech assisted meditation. That time to quiet the mind and to relax is so important. And for most, and myself included, I say this a lot. I selfishly created this company because I love the technology that we create and I use it every single day. Hence last night, 3 hours of bliss. And I came out of it, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning when we came out of it.
Ooh.
And I said to my housemate, Ben, like, I needed that. That was at the end of, I just moved into a new place. So dealing with unboxing and putting things on walls and what a room's going to look like and placement. My daughter, she started school. Life just hands it to you.
Yeah.
And what you do to relax, in my opinion, is what's going to give you the power and the strength you need to go when you need to, and to have that power reserve to go and drive and to be cool, calm, and collected and relaxed in the face of the to-do list and the happenings of the day. Look, I got friends and family that go off to their first job at 6 a.m. work until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, take a quick break, go to their second job, take a quick break, pick up their kids. They're in the grind. They're in the
Yeah.
hustle. They're
Yep.
doing what they need to do to get ahead. And it takes an energetic reserve. And they do that off 5 hours of sleep, right? Because they're working into the evening after the kids go to bed, and they're working on side projects, side hustles, or just the day-to-day life that we were talking about just before.
Or even being that it's all wired up from everything you've been doing and can't settle down, can't quiet it at night. You know, have trouble getting to sleep.
Totally. The 200 milligrams of caffeine they had to push through the hump, right? Like all of it. And so, yeah, I think the first thing is empathy and compassion for the fact that we're all living in this life. And I think about this every day as I'm driving around town. I'm looking at all the people in their cars, wondering where they're going to, where they're coming from, what's waiting for them at home. Start to think about all the different possibilities in this life and this earth walk that we have. 3 million people here in the Las Vegas Valley. That's 3 million lives, 3 million happenstances, 3 million existences. And I know what I come home to. And I wonder what other people go home to. I wonder what other people are pushing through day in and day out, what they're compartmentalizing and pushing down so that they don't have to deal with it. Nope, not today, maybe tomorrow. And that goes on day after day, week after week, month after month. And it's contributing to a sympathetic nervous system response. It's contributing to a stress response from the body, fight or flight, because the mind knows what you're suppressing and not dealing with in one way or another.
Yep.
And the to-do list has a way of doing that, giving you the ability to say, no, I'm going to focus on what's right in front of me right now, instead of taking the time. And meditation for me opens up an opportunity to address what's not being addressed when you're focused on the to-dos. And that's where the growth comes from. That's where the healing comes from. That's when you get to reflect back on past experiences and find the nuggets of benefit of that hellish situation that you were in, or that hellish situation that you are in. And when you can find the areas for growth, for learning, where the lessons are, what you did wrong that you can do better. And then all of a sudden you start finding the power and the strength to make better decisions. And it's not changing your entire life all at once.
No.
It's
long haul.
It's a series of, it took you a while to get into this mess. It's going to take you a little while to get out. Now, it might be a shorter road. If it took you 5 years to get into this mess, it might take you 2 years to get out. It might take 2 months. Yep. It might take 2 hours. But it's a series of better decisions that you slowly start to make that allow you to reflect back and go, today's better than yesterday, and tomorrow's going to be better than today. And you just keep trucking on that trajectory. And before you know it, you look back over a 1, 2, 3 month, 1 year, 2 year period, and you go, whew, I've come a long way.
Yeah. Yep. That growth is exponential.
Indeed. And we're all just trying to do our best.
Yeah.
Making the best decision we can with the info we have that moment.
The energy that you get back into yourself as a result of taking time for yourself, and that energy in itself, that I say, okay, I did at least this particular thing today for me. You know, we wear ourselves out for most other people most of the time. Very little of that energy is going to help me through the day. So I need to take a moment to do that.
As you're saying that, I'm reminded of, if you've ever flown, everybody's flown on a plane, and the stewardess, the air mask comes down, put your air mask on first before you help a child that's sitting next to you. If you look at your own mental health, emotional health, and your physical well-being as a cup, that cup has to be overflowing before you can help somebody else. And so many of us want to help first, beautifully so. Okay. And I'm grateful for you and everybody that wants to help first. But the reality is, if we are helping from an empty cup because we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not being as helpful, and we're not doing the world justice. When you show up in the world effectively, other people are going to show up in the world around you effectively.
Yeah. That makes me think of a Marianne Williamson quote of, when you, how did it go? but you give other people permission to do the same. When you show up for yourself, you give other people the permission to show up for themselves.
Yeah. Look, and it doesn't have to be a 3-hour sound bath like I did last night. It
Those
could
are
be
nice, but
it was amazing. I don't get to do that every day, that's for sure. It could be 3 minutes of just closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths.
Yep.
It can be you know what? I'm parked. I'm about to go into the supermarket, but there's a really nice patch of grass right there. Let me take my shoes off for a second and put my feet in the grass. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
If you ever see a guy in a parking lot standing on a piece of grass, like just staring at the sun, taking a few deep breaths, that is totally me.
Yeah.
And I'm shedding what was and allowing myself to be open to what will be, and grounding myself in the current moment, which is really important. Our bodies are like a battery, and we're walking around with rubber-soled shoes on and not connected to the earth. And we need to be connected to the earth, not concrete, not asphalt, which are oil-based materials, but and obviously concrete isn't, but asphalt is, right? Feet on the dirt, on the grass, and connected to the earth.
Yeah, very cool. And so I've had some experience, not with what you've got, but the benefit of sound. I've been around some meditation circles and stuff where people played the healing bowls and other kind of instruments, and they would walk you into a meditation while you're. I remember one time I was at a yoga retreat and they had us all around in a circle with our heads to the middle of the circle and our feet pointed out while she played some of these healing bowls, those big crystal bowls, and you could just feel that pulse through you, and the effect that you got from laying there doing that. You get a little bit with hearing, but what you've got, to believe, actually that vibration in my body that I could actually feel pulse through me, that you really don't get artificially. You don't really get it through a set of headphones that well.
No, you can't actually get it through a set of headphones. So the difference that you're talking about is really how the body interprets sound and frequency, and it's far beyond our ears and those mechanisms inside our ears, mainly the auditory nerve, the cochlea, and the aspects of our ears that translates sound, really changes in pressure into what we think is and interpret as sound through the brain. The brain is sitting in a black hole in your skull. Your eyes are the only light source, and I suppose inside the ear canal, inside the nose, the mouth, that sort of thing. But really, your eyes are
that's the optics.
When you're looking at somebody's eyes, you're actually looking at their brain, and that's where the optics are. That's right. 30% of your hearing is actually through your eyes, and where you are directing your brain to focus its attention. So the brain is processing some 4 billion inputs per second. The conscious mind can handle 4. So your eyes are part of the reticular activator system and the default mode network that tells your brain what stimuli to focus on and what stimuli to bring to the top of your conscious awareness. It's like if you ever went to a concert and you've got an obstructed view, you really don't enjoy the concert. If you can't see the person singing or performing, right?
Well, any noise that's in your environment, you will turn to look at to see what that noise is, and you don't.
Yeah, not only noises, like think about the mechanoreceptors in your skin, and this gets to your comment. Like you don't feel your clothes all day until I said feel your clothes, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel my clothes.
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all
right,
of a sudden.
As you brought it to my attention.
I brought it to your attention. That's right. So when you're listening to music or spoken word through headphones, now those Sennheiser HD 280 Pros that you're listening to is a high quality set of headphones, right? It's the frequency response of those headphones is 8 hertz to 25,000 hertz, which means that's the frequency that it's capable of playing, the hardware it's capable of playing, depending on the recording, depending on the voice, depending on the microphone, depending on the connection between you and I will obviously have limiting factors on what frequencies are coming through. But the frequency response of those headphones, because we use the same ones with our Sound Lounge, 8 hertz. I don't just randomly know the frequency response of all headphones. We happen to use
know more
those.
about my headphones than I do.
Well, they're incredible. Look,
they are
the
really
human ear has a frequency response of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay. Vibro-Acoustic Therapy, which is the formal body of research that governs what we do, focuses on frequencies between 30 hertz and 120 hertz. my technology, we use something called a tactile transducer. Looks like this if you're watching on video. Inside here is a magnet. This magnet has audio cables connected to it. This is what you're sitting on or laying on when you're using our technology. And this is what translates sound into vibration.
For those who
This has a
don't see it, it looks a little like a smoke detector.
Yeah. Yeah. In here is a magnet. You see the speaker cables that plug in. And in here is a magnet that oscillates. One oscillation is equal to 1 hertz frequency. So if I play a 20 hertz frequency, the magnet that's inside here is oscillating 20 times in 1 second. Again, the human ear has a frequency response of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Just to put this into further perspective, that subwoofer that you have in your home stereo system is typically 80 hertz and below. Okay, so we're talking about low-end frequency. Again, frequency response to the human ear, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Frequency response to that headset that you have, 8 hertz to 25,000 hertz. So it's outside of the frequency range of the human ear. But the bass is so good on those, right? It goes down to 8 hertz that the mechanoreceptors around your ear vibrate. And I'm sure if you've ever listened to music through that and cranked it, those drivers really get going and you can actually feel the pulsing outside your ear.
Yeah.
When you're laying on our technology, you are feeling the same frequencies that you're hearing. And the overlap, again, the frequency response 20 hertz to 200 hertz. So it's those low end frequencies that you are feeling while coupled with the Sennheiser's HD280 Pros that are giving you the full spectrum sound and audio. To the brain, it's interpreted as though you're inside the music in a very unique way. And that's what creates this 3-dimensional, fully immersive experience. Now, to bring that back to the sound bowls that you're laying on, your body is picking up on, through the mechanoreceptors, those frequencies that are coming off those bowls. When you're laying with your heads in a circle and you're sprawled out, the sound therapists are playing over you and they're moving the sound typically. The bowls will stay in one place, but if there's
sometimes
other
they're moving
people,
around.
they'll move around, they'll do drums over you, they'll hit a drum over your head, or they will play bells and chimes, right?
That's exactly what they did.
So the mechanoreceptors in your skin are absolutely picking up on that. Now, think of the Sound Lounge, the Practitioner, or the inHarmony meditation cushion. These are our 3 different products, and then coupled with our app, our technology amplifies that system so it's even stronger. And this increases not just the physical, mental, and emotional response that the body has, but this brings on additional physiological effects that aren't necessarily recognized with these acoustic instruments. So that amplification intensifies the reaction and, of course, the benefit as well. So it becomes a really powerful tool for rest and relaxation. That sound therapy that you went to experience, that sound bath that you experienced, I don't know about you, but the second that first gong or bell or chime gets hit, I'm out. I just bliss out and I wake up 45 minutes, an hour, whenever it is that they're done. Usually somebody comes on and says, okay, welcome back. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your feet, wiggle your toes. And I'm like, is it light out still?
Yeah.
Is it dark out still?
Time stands still. There's no, it is definitely a unique feeling.
Yeah. And I feel cleansed. I feel lighter. I feel more relaxed. And that's because that tension that we wear all day long rides in the physical body. And sound and vibration, to your point, have an opportunity to wring out the body, if you will, metaphorically, and to let that stress melt away. Vibro-Acoustic Therapy, formal body of research, right? It does a lot of different things, those physiological benefits that I talked about. It resets the nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Sympathetic is stressed and anxious or fight or flight. Parasympathetic is calm and relaxed or rest and digest. It sends a message to every muscle in the body telling it to relax, overriding the nervous system signals that tells the muscles to tense up. And now we're sending messages telling them to relax. It increases lymphatic drainage. These are the detox pathways in the body. We're shaking every cell in your body. So anything that's stagnant energetically or physical is now all of a sudden going to start to move. And it's a far more intense it's just far more intense than the acoustic instruments. Don't get me wrong. I love laying in front of a gong. I have several bells, chimes. I've got them all here, and they're wonderful instruments, and we play them often. But to be able to lay down on the sound lounge and hit a button and listen to a track through this technology.
Yeah. The immersiveness of it, I would imagine. You're just, like you said, you feel like it's laying on you like a blanket.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely phenomenal.
Very interesting. There's a thing I see once in a while, like my local guy, a friend of mine who has a meditation shop here locally. He loves the sound too, and he'll mic up his bowls and stuff. And if you can catch him once a month or so, he does one of those meditations. It's not really the same, but it's pretty close, and he mics them up. So he's got a pretty good sound system. But one of the things I was going to say, you were talking about the hertz, about some particular, I don't know, 432 or something. Is that 432 megahertz is supposed to be some frequency that aligns
432
with
hertz. Yeah, it's
hertz.
It's a frequency that gets a lot of attention.
Yeah.
The reality is I don't believe there are any bad frequencies.
Yeah.
I don't believe there are any, and now everybody's different and everybody's at a different place. And the human body is basically a big antenna, and we are constantly coming into harmonic resonance, matching the frequencies of that which is projected on us. And we're not consciously aware of all of the different frequencies that are being, that our body is coming into sync with on a regular basis. But think about the hum of the refrigerator. That's a 60 hertz hum here in the United States. It's 110 volts, 60 hertz. Yeah. And look, that can be a very beneficial frequency for you. And it can be exceptionally distracting if you're trying to get some work done, right? And your body is drifting into relaxation and coming into harmonic resonance with that type of frequency. We are constantly being bombarded with sound and frequency. Now, 432, 528, 417, 396, 285, 174. These are solfeggio frequencies. 432 is not technically a solfeggio frequency, but it gets grouped in quite often with solfeggio frequencies. A lot of science and research behind these frequencies. When we listen to music that's tuned to 432, there's a long-standing conversation about what happened in the early 1900s when they started tuning music to 440 versus tuning music to 432. All this is, and really, it's one octave higher or one octave lower, depending on which way you're going. 440 is one octave above 432. And when they tune music to it, all they're doing is taking the A. Have you ever been to the symphony?
I've been.
Cool. So when you get to the symphony, right before the conductor comes out, usually the first, or just after the conductor comes out, the first chair violinist will stand up and play an A, and the entire string section will harmonize to that A. And then the clarinet will stand, the lead clarinet will stand up and play an A, and the entire brass section will tune to that A. And that brings the symphony into harmony with itself. Well, before 1904 or something like that, that A that they played was tuned to 432 hertz. After, that A started to get tuned to 440 hertz, one octave higher. Is one better for you than the other?
Yeah.
Frankly,
I do know those bowls are more expensive when they're tuned to that.
and maybe that's marketing.
Really. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. No, look, lower frequencies we tend to harmonize better with and feel better. But the reality is your mechanoreceptors in your skin aren't really interpreting frequencies higher than 100 hertz. And that's not to say that they can't. They can. But how we perceive that sound above 100 hertz is perceived through the cochlea and the auditory nerve. We hear it versus feel it. And you can do this by just pulling up a sine wave generator on your phone and with a decent sound system, or even through our technology, play it. Now, again, my transducers only react up to 200 hertz, but once you get over 100, 120 hertz, you're no longer feeling it. You can hear it, but you're no longer feeling it. It's such a high frequency that you just don't perceive it with your skin.
You feel the bass drum and you feel the bass guitar and you feel those lower frequencies, when the guy's going down the road thumping his bass in his car, you feel that. But if it's a higher pitch one, you don't really feel that.
Yeah, like I immediately think of a motorcycle, which I will hear blocks away.
Yeah.
But I'm not feeling it like a muscle car that drives outside my house.
Yeah. Or the difference between a crotch rocket and a Harley.
You feel a Harley. Harley's 60 hertz, by the way.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it made me think about, I got yoga is another one of the things I jumped on when early recovery, and looking for more. And which is, that's ultimately kind of the problem here, is that I'm never get enough. So anything that makes me feel good, I'm going to be reaching for more. And
Get
now I try to
addicted to
turn that
that.
into other stuff. Right. That's what I mean. You just retune, you course correct to being
Totally.
and, you have that detox period, and that shift doesn't happen quickly, but you do end up, at least in my opinion, we replace that addiction for another one. Get addicted to healing and growth and spiritual growth and things like that.
Yeah, but
And
they don't call it addiction.
no,
Now all of a sudden they call it doing good for yourself.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's
Yeah,
best practice.
yeah.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I was listening to
Right?
something the other day about actually it's my sponsor was talking to me. He in May he'll be doing this thing for 40 years, and he's in the field, and he was talking about the levels of like your and I'll get them wrong or whatever, whether if they're endorphins or dopamine or whatever, but like the ranges, sort of like you were talking about in the sound, the ranges you get, like that, if you have sex, you're maybe getting 300 nanograms, and if you're eating something good, it might be worth 50, but like a shot of heroin or coke or something like that jacks you up to 20,000, and then it's
All right.
just
So
it's hard to get things to find something to do that replacement with.
so the reward center in the brain is dopamine. And a line of cocaine increases dopamine by 2.5 times, and it peaks 9 minutes after it's hit your nose and
Yep.
your brain barrier. 9 minutes, okay, which is why you want more afterwards. That's the addiction. The addiction is to the dopamine hit, and dopamine is part of our reptilian brain that is designed to lead us towards food. So 500 years ago, when we were searching for food and we didn't have farming and that sort of thing, and we were hunting and gathering, if you saw an apple tree or an orange grove or a bison or whatever miles out, you would get a dopamine hit, and that would focus your attention on that tree. And as you walk closer to that food source, you get another dopamine hit. And as you get closer, you get another dopamine hit. And this was the pleasure center of the brain designed to keep you alive. I don't know about you. That house looks really nice. I like those armoires and the cabinets that you got back there. I like the eagle that's swooping down on your back and those tree stumps with the yoga signs, right? Like that house looks pretty safe. I don't see too much turmoil. I don't see anything moving behind you. I don't see kids running around. I certainly don't see anything that's threatening you unless that eagle's real and it's coming down to swoop you for lunch, right? I live in a pretty safe house. I keep a baseball bat behind my front door. I have for, I don't know, I'm 44 years old. As long as I've lived on my own since I'm 19. I've never used it. I've never needed to use it. I've been very fortunate in that I live in a pretty safe environment. Some people don't, and I get that. But generally speaking, we're in pretty good spirits, and we're in pretty safe environments. Our bodies haven't caught up with that, and our nervous system has not caught up with that. And we are searching for dopamine hits that now we often get from a food supply that's available 24/7, or sugar, or starchy foods, or pastas and processed foods and sugary foods. And we get a dopamine hit for that. Longer the days where I need to worry about food. I don't. I have
It's not
6
the
months.
problem today. The opposite.
I have
The
6 months
problem.
worth of food here.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm prepared. I'm a prepper. I don't have to worry about water. I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to worry about shelter. As far as I could say, look, shit can go haywire real quick. Don't get me wrong.
I get you.
I got 60 days notice in my last house, which is why I moved this summer. Okay. I would have stayed there for a long time. And then I get the dreaded email like, hey, the owner's going to sell the house and you have 60 days notice to move out. And I'm like, oh, I found another house. I'm in a 2-year lease. I'm good for another 2 years. All right. So like this stuff comes up. Nervous system hasn't caught up with it yet though. So look, just 200 years ago, we were actually worried about waking up the next day.
Yeah.
Am I going to make it through the night? Am I going to freeze because I'm sleeping outside? Am I going to find that next warm meal? Am I going to find shelter? Are natives going to come and get me? Right? Like, depending on where you are in the world, some people are still concerned about that survival right now, unfortunately. So that stress and that anxiety is a real thing. And once you're in that safe environment, the nervous system hasn't caught up, so it misfires. And to get back to that dopamine that we are given, that cocaine line that gives you that 2.5x increase in, and even look, I've done these substances. I know how fantastic they are. I know what they feel like. I also know how detrimental they are to your health and what they can do when used in excess to destroy your life. So what else gives you a 2.5 times increase in dopamine? Cold plunge.
Yeah.
Something every single person can do right now. Go into your shower, flip that bitch to freaking cold, and stand underneath it, and do so for 2 to 3 minutes. Let that hit your head, your face, and your sternum and the top of your chest, and feel that cold water. You want to step up even more? Take a strainer, those metal strainers, put that up against the top and make it a mist, and let that mist fall on you, and you'll feel the cold. And what happens is cold shock proteins get released from your liver. Your body goes into survival mode. It pushes oxygen to the center of your chest cavity and to the brain. It gives you a rush. And now you have that same 2.5 times dopamine release, but it's sustained over the next 3 to 4 hours. It'll wake you up. Last night I was going from, again, very fortunate life. I just moved into a house that has a pool and a hot tub. Hot tub was at 104, and I was jumping into my 76-degree pool, going back and forth, getting that rush, getting that hit. One addiction replaced with another, great.
Yep.
But look at what I'm doing to surround myself by these good intentions and good people as well that are helping me focus on this. So there's a couple different ways that you can get that 2x multiplier. Look, skin on skin contact with another human being. After 20 seconds, it releases oxytocin to the brain and to the body. It's a feel-good hormone that makes you feel love and connection. Also stimulates a dopamine release. I don't have the numbers on exactly what it releases or how long, but I can tell you it's way better for you than any other substance that you're going to put in. But that cold shock protein release and cold therapy, as shocking and as uncomfortable as it is, gives you so much more benefit and so much more value than chasing a short-term high.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that we can do it. And these, look, norepinephrine, these are different releases, chemical releases. There's such thing as a runner's high.
Right.
You go out and run a mile and you begin to push through in that sweat and that perseverance, and your brain begins to release these neurotoxins that give you a high.
Yep. I got it through high intensity yoga. Hot yoga and high intensity.
Vipassana, hot yoga, stretching, HIIT training.
Lots of things. Yeah.
High intensity training, which, by the way, you can download an app on your phone that'll walk you through without any equipment whatsoever. Tabata training, which is awesome. It's 7-minute sprints of workout and intensity. It could be jumping rope. It could be doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, pull-ups if you got a pull-up bar, right? Calisthenics, great way to get there. There's lots of different things that you can do to replace it. You got to make the decision that you're going to replace it with other things that are going to be better for you and healthier. And there's plenty of people that are addicted to the gym.
Yep. I was thinking
That
this
ain't so
joke I
bad.
heard, the difference between a good habit and a bad habit. Good habits are easy to break. You got to turn those habits into good habits and stay with it.
So I just put out a blog. I write a newsletter each week. And my Friday emails, my Tuesday email rather, is called the Zen Den. And I just put out, my last one was all about habit stacking. And what this does to, and this works with biohacking too, and stacking technologies together, right? Best practices and the things that you want to do, stack them together so that you're doing multiple things that you want to do at the same time. I like to run and listen to a podcast. Right now, good for my mind, good for my emotional spirit, good for my physical body, all at the same time. And I'm getting a really good sweat. Every morning, I'm outside with the morning sun on my face. I believe there's 10 strategies to overall health and wellness, by the way. And the first starts with a good night's sleep, which I did not get last night. In fact, I have a 3.5-year-old. I don't remember the last time I got a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I get it.
To be honest. Drinking clean water from a natural spring, preferably not from bottled source. eating clean food, nutritious food, daily meditation, daily exercise, hot and cold therapy, cuddle time with my daughter and my wife. All right. And finding ways for us to get the trajectory. Morning sunlight. Within 3 hours of waking up, I want morning sunlight on my face, my skin, my shirt off, standing outside, 10 minutes, grounding, connecting to the earth. And I make this part of my daily practice. If I can get my daughter up and out of bed and dressed and out fast enough, I'll be like, take your shirt off, kid. Let's go outside, get some morning sun.
Yeah.
And half of the time she's like, okay, Dad. And this morning she's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, cool. Whatever you want. Okay. So habit stacking is something that I think is really important, and it helps you to reinforce those good habits, because now you've got a bunch of different things that you're doing that some you might enjoy doing and others you might not. But since you're associating it with the things you do want to do, you're more probable to get out there and do it.
Very cool. I had never thought about stacking. I do it too in ways, but it's been just, I don't know, accidental, but I do understand that you rang a bell with me on like, oh yeah, I kind of get why I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big podcast fan, as having a podcast, but and I also like a lot of, I read books through my ears.
Nice.
I think I'm someplace
Audible.com.
up in the 70s this year.
Amazing.
I think 76, I think is where I'm at right now.
Look, all that knowledge gets applied or used in one shape or another.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what you're reading, but regardless of what you're reading,
I mix it up.
Yeah, sure. Look, fiction, nonfiction, different topics. Look, read about stuff you don't like. Read about stuff that pisses you off. Try and learn about other people's perspective.
There you go.
Sit down with somebody that doesn't have the same political views as you and understand why.
Yeah.
Like, don't get heated in the conversation. It's okay to get heated, but not at each other.
Yeah.
Have a conversation to really ask somebody like, hey, why do you feel that way? I love sitting down with people. I'm not trying to convince you, and I'm not expecting you to convince me. Enlighten me as to why you feel that way, and let's have a conversation around it so that I might learn what somebody else's perspective is.
Yeah, very good point. Not near enough of that is happening today.
Back at the very beginning of this thing, when we were kind of talking about life, it reminds me of an old adage, and that is, if we all took our shit and threw it into a pile, and then got to decide what we would take out of that pile, you'd walk back and grab your own shit because it's yours, and at least you're familiar with it. Right? I don't want somebody else's shit. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know your perspective. I'll happily take my own shit because I'm familiar with it and I know what's going on. But that's a choice. And through knowledge, training, education, growth, that's when all of a sudden we can change that perspective and we change what's around it. And inHarmony technology is that technology that allows you to relax and drift off into yourself, to explore yourself, because we all have the answers inside. We all know what's right and what's wrong. When you're making a bad choice, you know you're making a bad choice. When I'm reaching for pizza and I know gluten and dairy doesn't agree with me, I do it. I'm not perfect. And when I do it, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pay for this later. I'll take some digestive enzymes or whatever I got to do. Right?
Yeah.
When you reach for a cigarette, when you reach for, that addiction, whatever that looks like, in the moment that it's a bad choice.
Yep.
And
I
yet
knew it from the first time too, even before I really knew. There was always, I was talking about that. There was something in me saying, Dan, you probably ought not do that. Yeah. But I did it anyway.
You do it anyway. Why? Because it feels good, because it's social, because you're hanging with friends. We make all of these different rationalizations to ourselves as to why this is okay. And again, like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being trying to figure this game of life out just like everybody else is, but I've read the books, I've done the work, and now I've got a lot of experiences that I want to share with people, and an entire company that's built around making and manufacturing these experiences and sharing them with people.
Heck yeah, man. We don't, there's a fantastic number of people who are forces for the good out there today, and so many different avenues. There's, if you don't like this, try that. You don't like, and that's there. Throw it against the wall and see what sticks. See what you like. I would have, if you'd told me I was going to fall in love with yoga before I got sober, I'd have punched you in the nose.